Okay. Hi, good afternoon, bona tarde, buenas tardes, boa tarde. I'm Portuguese, so I added the last one. Welcome to this OLX Masterclass GenAI in Action. My name is Ines, and I'm gonna be your host tonight and guide you through the whole event. I need a clicker. Sorry. Okay. So let's go through today's agenda. Yeah, this is my first time. So first we will have a presentation on GenAI in the real world at OLX. Then a second presentation, becoming AI-ready engineers. Then we're gonna have a short 15-minute break where you can grab some waters to then be ready for our final presentation, the Building Smarter Agents, how role design makes AI more reliable. So, yeah, I'm the host, Ines. Thank you. Data engineer at OLX. And we also gonna have here today Giuseppe Ciotta, VP of Engineering at OLX, Pedro Chaves, Data Science Manager at OLX, Luan James, Software Engineer at Glovo, and Carlos Sanson, Product Engineer at Latitude. Okay, so for the people that are seeing this online, we will have a 10-minute session of Q&A after each presentation. If you're watching from home or from your laptop online, please join Slido where you can add questions. If you're here at the audience, you can just raise your arm and someone will give you a microphone to ask. You don't need to actually add it on Slido as you prefer. So, and with that, I think we can start. Our first panelist will be Giuseppe. He's the VP of Engineering at OLX. He leads the data engineering and the GenAI organizations here. And he held various engineering roles from growth startups to global technology companies. And he's now landed here at e-commerce. And then we have Pedro Chaves, who is a manager at is a data science manager at OLX. He leads a team that solves users' problems using GenAI. And he's a startup founder with more than 10 years of experience from media to healthcare, and now he landed on e-commerce. They are going to talk about GenAI in the real world at OLX, how we went from GenAI experiments to more than 180 live applications that solve real problems, help real users, and actually enabled new business opportunities and also unlocking and solving real problems. So over to you.
Thank you, Nesh. All right. Well, thank you for coming today here. Super happy to see everybody. And also, by the way, thank you to Tech Barcelona for offering this space. It is a very beautiful place. And today we're going to be talking about, as Ines was saying, scaling GenAI at OLX. We're going to be we're talking a bit about an introduction to OLX. Then we understand the products, the markets, etc. Then how we started this GenAI journey, what we are doing in terms of products, and also some of the challenges that we saw, and some Q&A at the end. All right. So this is important because we actually don't have commercial presence here in Spain. So it is important to frame this a bit more. So OLX, we're present in 8 markets. We have 10 brands. We operate all across Europe. We have, last fiscal year, we closed at 777 million revenue, USDs. We have 2.6K employees, again, across all of Europe. And we have more than 900 product and tech people at the company. Okay? And this is important because to be able to scale from essentially from experiments to now a large number of production workloads, it just doesn't happen by accident, or it doesn't happen because we want it. We need to be intentional about the things that we do, right? So we need to build what we call a GenAI adoption program, okay? So we started with this, which might sound a bit maybe philosophical, but it's a very useful framing for us. So we essentially said, okay, so we're gonna split the work in 3 work streams, okay? We're gonna start with what we call GenAI Optimize, which is essentially tweaks and improvements to existing products. So improving kind of quality of life improvements on top of existing products, okay? And then we have GenAI Scale and Disrupt. And these are increasingly more ambitious ways of looking at our products. With GenAI Scale, we want to do like completely new products based on GenAI, so things that weren't possible before. And then on GenAI Disrupt, it's essentially new things that are actually making existing things obsolete. So we're self-disrupting ourselves. So why is this important? Because now that we have this, we can think about, okay, so we're gonna invest these resources into this work stream or this other work stream. These are the ambitions that we have. For instance, for GenAI Optimize, we want to aim for maybe single-digit, some important KPI improvement, whereas for Scale, we want to look at the same KPI, maybe double-digit improvement. So this allows us to give some scale and goals to the different work streams, as well as assigning resources to them. So, okay, and also to give you more context of our journey, like not only so we look at the kind of dividing the work, but also how do we get to where we are, right? So OLX started in 2000, so about 10 years ago at this point, with our first ML workloads. So these were essentially the first models that we created. They were based on like the domain of trust and safety and moderation. So these are the first problems that we tackled with machine learning, so with the classical like statistical machine learning. Then OLX grew quite a lot, and so we saw, and also ML grew quite a lot. So we saw the first double-digit revenue impact in about 2018. Then jumping to 2023, this is where we essentially created the first GenAI models. And the first one that we created was essentially for jobs. So we have a vertical of jobs, and this is where we essentially match a CV of a person with job offers that might be available. Then in 2024, we said, okay, so now we need to really be more intentional about this technology. It's proven, it works. Now, how do we scale this to the whole company? How do we scale this to a large organization? And so we started working on something that we call GenAI platform that we will be reviewing today. And all the way now to 2020, where we have more than 180 AI applications powering more than 50 distinct use cases. Okay, so this is a bit the context. Now, we said that we wanted to be intentional about this growth and this adoption across OLX. And we essentially face 3 different problems. So first of all, access to these GenAI models. So, okay, now we have 900 people working in tech at OLX. How do we give access to these models to them? Like we don't want to have like 50 parallel conversations with OpenAI or Anthropic or whatever. Like it doesn't make sense as a company. Okay, so we need to somehow focus these conversations, concentrate them, and that's why we said, hey, we need like a gateway to be able to access these models, so that everybody across the company can use this gateway, and so that we can have one single place and we can apply a lot more governance on it. Then the second point is about observability and safety. So these are pretty tough topics that that we tackle, and it doesn't make sense for us to develop like 50 different observability or eval pipelines at OLX. These are very complex things to build, so we also wanted to kind of concentrate knowledge, and that's also the second reason why we built this platform. Point is about governance and cost control. So you might know that these GenAI models sometimes can be expensive, especially if we use the more advanced ones. And we cannot just give free access to all the models and not do anything. We need to be, again, intentional about measuring how much we use them, who uses them, and also being able to govern this in a much better way. Additionally, we have some obligations as a company, like for instance, data governance and data residency. Like where does data live? Is it in the US? Is it in Europe? So all these things, as well as data retention, for instance. And some of these model providers, you can say, hey, will be retained and saved. And so depending on the specific needs, we can control this at a kind of global scale. So this is these are just screenshots of the GenAI platform that we built. Okay, so essentially it is a platform that gives us three things. It is a model gateway, so it sits between applications and the models. Then we have an observability platform that's connected to the GenAI platform. We're going to take a look at that too, and also gives this governance layer and capability. So these are the three pillars upon which we built this platform. These are screenshots taken from our internal console that we use for provision, like a number of GenAI applications. It's also the console that we use for our internal data engineering platform. Okay, so in a bit more detail, so we have two main actors interacting with the GenAI platform. We have applications and data scientists or AI engineers. So applications, they connect to the AI Gateway API. So this is, we have multiple APIs here to connect to the GenAI platform. We have one API that's the classical like chat completions and API also available with OpenAI. And then we have like provider-specific APIs. And then we also have what we call transparent proxy API, which is essentially we expose the direct capabilities of the underlying model provider through the AI Gateway API. So we have a number of different ways to access it. And through the AI Gateway, we access all of these model providers we're working with at the moment with OpenAI, with 11 Labs, with Bedrock, and with Gemini. And of course, behind Bedrock, there's also like a number of other providers such as Anthropic, Llama, etc. So we give access to all these things to hundreds of engineers in a very easy to use way. Just one single place. You go, you click, and you get an API key, and with that you can access all this, all these different providers. Then we also have like automatic tracing. So we're able to instrument applications such that we can then use that in combination with Arise, which is our observability platform. So essentially, we have enabled automatic instrumentation of these applications. Then on the data scientists and AI engineer side, so they typically access our console, and through that, they can either monitor and evaluate the performance of the application through Arise. So essentially, we are able to jump to Arise and see like how the application is performing at runtime. We are able to see like spans, evals. We can do all these things, and as well as we can do governance, usage, and cost control. So all these things are provided by the GenAI platform at OLX. Again, the goal here being that how do we serve the needs of a substantial company that has thousands of people working, in an efficient way. So this is why we built it. Stays on it? Yes. So the feature set in more details are on the model gateway side, we have, as we saw, like access to leading GenAI models. We now have access to, I think, more than 50 models. We can add them more, very easily. Multi-model, like input, output. We work with text, video, images, everything. Interestingly, applications can switch from one model provider to the other. Like we can have multiple things. Like the same application can be talking with, Anthropic, AI models, and changing between one and the other is just a matter of changing one configuration. We have both real-time and batch APIs. We support this transparent proxy mode where we don't need to kind of all the model provider like new endpoints, but rather we just expose them, and then we're able to instrument this proxy mode so that we can still do all the accounting work that we do, the bookkeeping, and also like the average latency that we add. It's not that high. It's below 20 milliseconds on average. On the governance and cost control, define a number of limits on usage, on budgets. Here, which is as we negotiate as a company with these providers on a large scale, we have access to private pricing for some of these models, and so we're able to publish our prices inside the internal. We call it model garden. So there you can see like, hey, this model costs X. We have these discounts, and this is a pricing model. Okay. And finally, that's also where we can again apply all of these centralized compliance rules like retention, data residency, etc. We didn't from scratch, but we decided to integrate with Arise, which is one of the leading observability for both ML and GenAI applications. So our goal here is for applications to be integrated as transparently as possible with Arise. So that's what we did. And through Arise, then essentially we can do like tracing, we can run evals, we can do prompt testings, and we can even set up guardrails. So these are all things that are happening in the platform. All right. Slide is about the results that we saw. So essentially, we started in early this year to board applications that we already had in the platform, and I think this audience knows that correlation is not causation. So it might be that it's not just because we built this platform that we grew so much in terms of applications, but still, I think the important thing here is that if we focus on the fourth KPI, the use case coverage, so essentially what we're saying here is that 91% of the applications at OLX using GenAI technology are using the GenAI platform. So 91% of the use cases that we have find value in this platform, right? Being positively to the growth of this technology across the company. So we now have 51 models available in the platform. Again, it's very easy for us to add a new model. Then we have about 180 projects running in the platform. We have more than 500 users working with it. And again, there's pretty high coverage of use cases. Yeah. So that's it. This is a bit of an overview of our GenAI platform. I hope you liked it. If you have any questions, just put it in the Slido poll. Yeah. Thank you.
All right. So my goal here is to do a brief showcase of actual initiatives that we have at OLX. So I would start with a question, which is always risky in a sleepy audience like you, which is when I say GenAI, which is the first type of tech or like application that you think of? Going once. All right. Okay. What's the soundbite that comes to mind when you think of GenAI? Chatbots, agents, stuff like that. So none of the examples that I'll show you will be related to chatbots or agents in any way. All right. So and this basically to show that we are trying, and I would say successfully, to infuse GenAI in a bunch of products. Leveraging its value outside of this traditional, let's say, more common scope of the chatbots. Starting with one of our these jobs verticals that Giuseppe mentioned, a very basic problem that we were able to solve. Well, it's a very complex problem, a very basic feature that we were able to solve with GenAI was the problem of CV parsing. So for the veterans, as you know, a few years ago, if you wanted to parse multiple CVs, you would have to have a combination of some sort of OCR, then some document understanding models. You would have to train those models on different layouts. It would be a pain, right? The thing is that with the advent of these new LLMs, it became relatively easy to start structuring data from input documents. So actually one of the first applications that we have going live was within jobs, the parsing of the CV data. So after the candidate applies to a particular job posting, he can submit his CV, as most of them do, and we can automatically access all of the information structured to our purposes, which then facilitates a bunch of downstream processes, such as matchmaking, for example, between the user profile and new ads recommendations, or the application and the actual employer requisites or prerequisites. So this is an example of an actual flow that you can see within the current product, which leverages GenAI directly. Then we have a bit of a crazy here, but basically the goal was to showcase a new module that we are working on within jobs still, which we have been calling this Jobs Navigator, which is essentially an onboarding flow that aims at capturing users' preferences, both through open-ended questions, but essentially through UI interactions, meaning we are collecting information and feeding it to LLM-based processes, but through traditional UI interactions, because this then unlocks, again, new recommendation type of processes, groupings of the offers that we give to the user that are more personalized to the preferences that they gave us, etc. Shifting over context from jobs onto one of our most interesting teams, which is the analyst teams. We basically take the microphone closer to my mouth, as Ina suggested, and we start looking at well, what processes that are currently done internally can be optimized through the use of GenAI. Well, one of the most resource-intensive processes within OLX is when you start some data project, you are faced with the need to get some data. You want some customer base, you want to know the behavior of a certain user segment, and you usually resort to analysts, right? The problem is that this gives a lot of ad hoc requests and a lot of ad hoc loads to these analysts. And the solution that came for this internal process was essentially to, okay, maybe we can set up some sort of, not exactly chatbot, but some sort of process where we can allow the users to, in a sort of self-service kind of way, start asking questions against our tables, against our data, avoiding a little bit the traditional route, which was to just knock at the analyst's door with some ad hoc request, which may or may not be answered in time. This project is called Talk to Data and is accessible company-wise through a very elegant Slack integration. Over to a completely different topic, yet super interesting at OLX, is trust and safety. As you may or may not know, OLX as a classifieds platform doesn't necessarily control the transaction that happens between the buyer and the seller. This is done offline, this is done between two persons, hopefully, and for now. And the problem is that this opens the door to a lot of scams. Scams are of multiple types. Scams are highly professionalized. There are major companies working behind this type of scams. And this essentially creates a sort of a cat and mouse kind of game with our internal teams, where we are constantly updating our methods to essentially avoid exposure to these scams for our users. One really interesting scam that some company really came up with was a very elegant phishing attack, where they would share some sort of QR code where the user would have to go to confirm the payment, blah, 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 and then traditional phishing attack. Okay, it's a QR code, it's an image. We can probably classify it pretty easily, no need for GenAI. Let's train some models. Okay, it performed well. Within a few days, what happened was that the scammers realized that if they split the image in two, when they sent it via the chat window, it was actually rendered side by side. And this made it readable and didn't really look like two images for the user. These, of course, broke the traditional ML models. So a nice segue into a GenAI-powered solution, which is, of course, able to generalize much better, and is able to pick up on these cases with a very, very, very high precision, with our target being around 99.5, which is achieved, which has been achieved. And this leads to, of course, a lot of banned users, and this coverage is still increasing. And for you to have an idea, these image-based scams are essentially 65% of all the scams within the platform. So it really is a problem, and this is a real solution for it. Now I think it's time for a slide with a video, if I'm not mistaken. Yep. Where I'll try to showcase a completely different, I hope, perspective on GenAI and how it can be used within our e-commerce context. So I'll ask the
2014 BMW Z Jittery S-Drive 20i with a 184 horsepower, 1,997 cubic centimeters petrol engine and automatic transmission. Hardtop convertible design with alloy wheels. Combines style and functionality. Premium interior features leather seats, navigation and multifunction steering wheel. Bluetooth connectivity, heated seats and cruise control enhance convenience and comfort. Accident-free, serviced regularly, driven only 55,000 kilometers with a service book. Includes a 12-month warranty, complete documentation for added assurance.
All right, so I guess the first question is why, right? The thing is that within one of our most important verticals, motors, of which Automoto is our Polish brand, we see that there's an increasing segment of users, younger users, who want new ways of interacting with the ads, want new ways to be exposed to information, and, well, it just so happens that video is one, or was one of the most requested features for ads to contain. This poses a problem because the sellers don't necessarily have the time nor the willingness to go around the car shooting videos. Maybe they will in the future, maybe with some help of some brilliant tools that these teams are developing. But as of now, there's really no simple way of convincing the users to contributing with high-quality videos. So the interim solution, which again was brilliantly implemented by this team, was generating the videos ourselves. So what we do is that we take the images, we caption the images automatically, we generate the voiceovers automatically, and then we synchronize these sources of content, so in order to have this video. And we also do some nice tricks on top of the images to give these 3D reconstruction that you see here, this depth perception that gives some more, let's say, motion and real-life kind of attributes to the video. This is, again, going live and covering our motors vertical. Keeping a little bit with the theme, I think you can play the video because it's pretty long and boring, so I'll just talk over it. Keeping with the theme of motors and car parts, again, another very interesting vertical within OLX. We have these users who make a living out of selling used car parts, okay? Just imagine that you need, I don't know, some steering wheel for your Smart, and you can go on OLX and buy it. The thing is that most of these sellers, or not most of these sellers, a lot of these sellers actually sell full car for parts, meaning they don't list the steering wheel, and then they list, I don't know, I don't know nothing about cars, but like a right wheel, I guess, and some tires. They actually list the full car, and then they just hope that the potential buyer gets in touch and asks whether some part is available or not, and can we make a deal. So we essentially developed a solution that goes from this base ad of a single car, and immediately, through a very simple and hopefully intuitive flow for the seller, generates all of the possible parts that can be sold from that initial car, and presents the user with the capability of immediately posting those ads, hopefully reducing the attrition to create those ads, because we need those ads. It's our source of revenue, right? Plus, it presents the user or the seller with multiple new revenue streams. Again, live and currently being pushed by our sales. Of course, all good things, hopefully all interesting things, but along with implementing a lot of these solutions come a lot of problems, right? So again, asking the audience, when you think of GenAI solutions and in your jobs, if you are using GenAI and if you are developing within the GenAI space, what's the first thing that you think of implementing or doing and or researching when you start a GenAI project? Sorry? Yep, evaluation, right? So, as with any data project, and GenAI is no exception, with anything that you start to set, you need to start thinking what business metrics are you going to attack, what user metrics are you going to attack, hopefully, and what is going to be impacted by this system. So as with any traditional data or machine learning process, GenAI also has to be put through thorough evaluation, regardless of whether you have strict labels. So whether when you have ground truths and hence you can run traditional evaluation pipelines, or when you don't have those labels, you actually can resort to strategies such as LLM as a judge, where you can use more powerful models than the ones that you are using or will be using in the continuous task to judge the results or the outputs that you are generating. One example that I brought here, which is real, again relating to car parts, related to a re-ranking process that we are doing on top of the car parts search results, which looks at the compatibility information and tries to re-rank the results, bringing a higher number of compatible parts to the top ads that the users are seeing when compared to traditional OLX search. Implemented in Arise in our case. Along with evaluation, or considering that evaluation doesn't really stop after you start working on the project, as the service or as the solution goes live, you then have to think, or hopefully you thought about it before, but then what will happen is that you will have to have some sort of monitoring, some continuously performance checks, and assessing whether the model or the solution is behaving correctly. For this, we leverage Arise. We do a bunch of, in some cases, when we have lower volume, we do full sample tracing. In other cases, where the volume is too much, we can resort to sample tracing, essentially allowing us to inspect these LLM calls, input, output, cost, etc. In some cases, again, with LLM as a judge. In other cases, with strict metrics. Another observability we mature our processes is this idea that since GenAI applications are mostly exposed as services, not all of them. We have some offline pipelines, for example, that have some batch processes leveraging LLMs, but in most of the cases, we are actually looking at services, right? And as services, this falls into traditional engineering best practices, so we leverage ops level to monitor the actual service that's exposing these features. And finally, for any project to be successful, for not just product reasons, but also for compliance reasons, we also have to have a lot or strong guardrails, which means that we have to somehow take care of security and privacy issues to avoid leakages, to make sure that the content is relevant to the user, the quality of the language, which is especially a problem for us because, as you saw from Giuseppe's slides, we operate in multiple markets, right? So we are Portuguese. We develop solutions that are live in Poland, Romania, Bulgaria, which I'm sure you know each speak their own language, which, by the way, are not common languages in most of the LLMs. The coverage in the training data sets for these LLMs is not ideal for most of these languages. So we do have to have in place some sort of checks for the quality and the language consistency of these solutions and of these outputs, especially when they are user-facing. This is essentially to say that we leverage guardrail AI to implement this type of guardrails both at the platform level, meaning that there are some guardrails which are transversal to all the initiatives, but then you can also set up individual projects because, I don't know, in the real estate, the queries to be strictly related to buildings metrics and don't allow the user to ask something related to something else. And I guess it's time for your questions. Was it so clear? Giuseppe, you want to take this one?
Yeah, so the question is, yeah, essentially, how do we negotiate token prices with suppliers? So typically, it comes with volume, right? So it comes with volume. I'm sure that some of you, it's very similar, for instance, to what happens with the AWS. With AWS, you get enterprise discounts once you reach certain volumes. At that point, an account manager will, show up and say, "Hey, by the way, why don't we talk?" And that's usually how it's happens. Yeah, so volume.
All right. The question was mine.
Okay.
Do you have experience on negotiate with GCP or only with Amazon Bedrock?
Maybe we don't get into the specifics.
We don't have contract with AWS in case of using Amazon Bedrock as a AI provider. We use Google in GCP, so it's Vertex AI. So if you have experience with Google as well to negotiate tokens price.
Again, better not to get into specifics of each negotiation because these are private negotiations.
Okay. And I have other question based on the agents. In the case that we create agents for, let's say, find in LinkedIn different profiles, right? How you manage prompt injections when the GenAI it's reading all the different pages?
That's a good question. We don't really do scrapping, or we don't run these agents in the wild, so hopefully the type of input data that we have is more or less curated. However, we do have some user inputs that we have to deal with, being at the ad level, at the chat level, or even at the CV application level, for example. So most of that is dealt with at the guardrails level. So you specifically look for some patterns which are known. If some type of new attack happens, we'll have to adapt.
Thank you.
Want me to answer this?
So on model selection, do you really see value in supporting multiple models, or is it a winner? Yes, we do see the value, especially when it comes to benchmarking one against the other. So yeah, we do this quite frequently, and also many times we'll start with a very powerful model, and then we'll downgrade to a less powerful but cheaper model of the same family. So yeah, this happens. But even like across different providers, we do benchmark things. So it's important to have access to multiple models in parallel. Yeah.
So you guys on the top level provide all the infrastructures to be used, and the team have the autonomy to choose, or is a little bit toward like we want you guys to benchmark this and this and this. So the the teams has all autonomy to do it and see the prices and so on and decide how to do this benchmarking.
Yeah. So I mean, this is the typical kind of conundrum of the like building platforms, right? So we want to give building blocks to teams. We don't want to be overly prescriptive about, hey, you should use this versus that. Like we don't know. Speaking from a platform perspective, we cannot know each specific use case. So we'd rather give freedom to choose. We'd rather give the framework and the kind of guardrails around the choice rather than imposing a certain model.
And then the question before. So it's an interesting question whether regarding the agent frameworks. I'm not sure if anyone's here or if it was an online question, but the answer is both. As the ecosystem of the agent frameworks matures, we are starting to converge into a couple of solutions. Pydantic AI is one of our favorites. Google ADK has shown some promise in some POCs. At the same time, we have also worked internally in a framework of our own to overcome some very small details. My intuition is that as the ecosystem matures, everyone will end up using the same 2-3 frameworks, and the teams are free to select whatever to leverage, taking into account that there's probably more knowledge within the company regarding some frameworks than the others. So this has a weight in the decision, or hopefully has a weight in the decision that you'll take. How do you devise which provider to use for each use case? I guess, as Giuseppe mentioned, is a matter of benchmarking and giving the freedom to the teams to experiment with, both across provider and within provider with different types of models. The motor add to video, have you done with Nathan or Confu UI, or do you use some other tool? It's actually a rather complex pipeline, leveraging a bunch of tools, none of them at this level of abstraction that you see here. If you want more nitty-gritty details, you can ask Mariano over there. But no, it's really hardcore engineering. It's no high-level sort of vibe.
Yeah, so vision for the future of the GenAI platform. So I think we've reached an actually a reasonable point in terms of maturity. Because we are already covering 91% of the use cases that we have as a company. And we don't believe that it makes sense to chase like 100%. There will always be some sort of long tail list of use cases that it doesn't really make sense for us to chase in terms of platform. Of course, we'll always be kind of looking outside and see like what makes sense for us to do. But in terms of the future, the main topic of conversation for us is around AI safety, and adding more guardrails to the platform, making sure that we are compliant with the various regulations that are in place or that are coming. So that's I would say the best, the most common topic that is brought up at the roadmap time.
This is a good one. You mentioned many use cases and examples that you have developed at OLX. Is there a specific one that you are proud of? Which one is it and why? Well, the politically correct answer would be all of them, right? Different use cases, different business units. We love all the stakeholders. I would say that I'm proud of very proud of an initiative which I didn't present, which takes user profiling to the next level. So we are essentially leveraging these LLMs to take user behavior as input, essentially click streams and with a bunch of elegant transformations, and creating very detailed user profiles that allows us to understand their intent when searching for things, mostly jobs, which has been our focus within the platform, which then can be used for recommendations, for implementing search results, for improving search results, etc.
Yeah, so more advanced LLM features, like how do we deal with them inside the GenAI platform? So two things I would say. So first of all, we don't like to be prescriptive. So we don't like to impose the platform. Like teams will see the value in the platform, and they use it because of the value they see, not because we say, hey, you have to use this, right? Oops. So so that's the first thing. The second thing is, so by the way, and that means that they will be able to use things that are not yet covered in the GenAI platform if that's required. The other thing is we recently implemented something called transparent proxy mode, so that essentially we expose the capabilities of the underlying platform in a quite transparent and raw way. So we do very minimal processing of the requests that comes to the platform, so that we don't have to chase each individual endpoint, but rather we expose them pretty transparently to the GenAI platform users. We also do tracing of these requests, so that we can still understand who uses what and some other metadata that we can attach to each request. But that means that we don't have to implement all of these features that potentially there are a lot of them, right? So we don't try to do that. All right. Cool.
Last but not least, before you clap, we are hiring, so there are open positions to work specifically with these initiatives. So if this sounds interesting, just come over and you can bribe us with some beer. And
yeah, we have an office here in Barcelona. that's focused on GenAI technology. It's a beautiful office in Port Vell, so yeah, please reach out. All right, thank you.
Okay, so next, Luan James. He's gonna teach us how AI can actually make us better engineers. He's a staff engineer at Glovo with more than 10 years of experience building backend, reliable backend systems at scale. And his day-to-day work is actually seeing how we can use AI to make us better engineers. He's actually has some data on how we can, on productivity and efficiency that we can leverage on, and he's gonna teach us how we can use it and actually also mistakes to avoid. So thank you, and go.
Hello. Hello, everybody. Yes, I'm Luan, and I'm here to talk about how we are using AI at Glovo. It's specifically on code development as a code assistant. Of course, there are a lot of use cases of AI at Glovo. We are gonna focus only on the engineering side of this. Cool. So, a little bit about myself. I am Luan. Yes, and as Inés said, I'm a staff engineer at Glovo, and I work on the store view team. Store view team is the team that is responsible to everything that happens while you are browsing iStore. So in the application, we are responsible for this flow. Why am I here, you may ask? So we did an experiment in my team. On the last 4 weeks, we decided to fully embrace AI. So for every test that we would do, we would try AI first, okay? So then I'm here to share what went good, what went wrong, you know, and how we can leverage AI into our workflow. So let's go. So a little bit about introduction. Actually, before going into the agenda, I wanted to just understand the audience here and just for me to set the tone of this presentation. If you can say that most of your day or part of your day is writing code, please raise your hand just for me to see how that technical will be. All right, so not that many people actually. Thank you. So here we are going to just give a bit of introduction of how we are using AI into software development. Then I'm going to share things that worked while the experiments that I mentioned, and also things that didn't work. And at the end, I want to share some pitfalls or some of the philosophical topics that we can have while working with AI, and then my vision that I have about the future, okay? So let's go. All right, so everything started in 2021. Also, when GitHub Copilot launched Copilot, when GitHub launched Copilot, it was quite good actually and surprising. At the same time scary. It was able to generate some code. Then ChatGPT launched, and people started to use it as we call prompt engineering. So we were asking the chatbots to generate some code for us. But this year, things changed completely. When agents got into the game changed completely. So agents, in theory, they can fix bugs, they can implement completely new features, they can work on the documentation. In fact, and I got this from the official documentation of Copilot, that says that agents can work just like a human developer. So, but can this really be true? Can agents really be autonomous and write code? If we look at what people are saying out there, the headlines, we see things like this. We see, for example, that this company says that AI is writing 40% of their code. Same says Microsoft. And the Anthropic CEO says that in 6 months, AI is going to be writing 90% of our code. But can this really be true? Can AI really write 90% of our code? And I wanted to know your opinion about this one. If you agree with Anthropic CEO, raise your hand. Can AI write 9% of our code? Not many people actually. I just saw 2 hands raised. Okay, so let's see. So I went to try that. As I said, we fully embraced AI and delegated every test that we had in the past month. So let's see what happened. Cool. So first test that we had was this one. We wanted to upgrade the version of one service that we own to Java 21. All right. So that was a prompt that I gave AI to do the work for me. upgrade this version of Java to Java 21. All right, so the agent then, read the code, actually did some Google searches, which is what we do, usually as humans. It's awesome. And it's actually changed some files, which makes sense, good, but the build failed. And the agent is actually doing another Google search, trying to fix that problem. And the build failed again, and we see this message. A potential loop was detected. So the agent was lost and didn't know. This is what we call agent hallucinations. I was there looking at the screen for 20 and a half an hour, and nothing was done. I was very frustrated, at the beginning. So then, how can this be true? So you that raised your hand, how can this be true? How can AI write 90% of our code? So the thing is that we were not using it right. Yeah. So here I'm gonna share with you some of the suggestions that we applied, and we were able to actually leverage the help that AI can give us while writing code. Spoiler alert, yes, it worked. So if we look at the data, we see a 6% increase in PR throughput on my team. We also saw a huge increase in management. Is there any manager here in the audience? I know that there is one. So we see increase in contribution from management, which is quite interesting, So maybe it tells us that going forward, we maybe might see some change on the role of the managers as well. But I wanted to highlight this section of this slide, which is actually the feeling that we have on day-to-day. Yeah, so this was a project that we initially estimated to deliver in December. After we did this experiment, we just finished the first milestone last week. So which was pretty amazing and shows that potential that AI can have on your day-to-day work. All right, so what suggestions do we have, and I can share with you now. So first thing that is good to have is a good agents.md file. So if you don't know what's this is the first file that the agent reads before doing what you ask, before doing your prompt. And here we need, to define, for example, the AI role. So what would be good agents.md file? I have on a slide here, and I know that it's difficult to read, so maybe let's focus on the important parts. For example, as I told you, define an AI role. Here I'm saying, hey, you are a senior software developer, pairing with me on this task, for example. We are also defining some processes, and this will set the tone of AI when answering our prompt. I'm saying here, hey, do not just go ahead and change files. Instead, let's plan first. Let's align on the solution. If you find decisions, if you had to take some decisions, let's align on that first. So having a good agents.md file is important when coding. All right? Second suggestion has to do with good documentation. So when you prompt the agent, what the agent will try to do is to do searches on your code base. Yeah, so if you don't have good documentation, the chances of the agents to hallucinate is higher. For example, so something that we have in our repositories is usually the docs folder, and there we have relevant documentation, those for both for humans but also for AIs. For example, here I have a file that says best practices, what we expect for humans developers to write the code in the way that we want, and also a file here about OpenAPI, for example. So this is a public service that serves API, and then it's specifying here how the OpenAPI specification should be written. So let's open this file, for example, for us to see a good documentation. So here's a small introduction about the OpenAPI, but then we see also code examples, So here I'm saying, hey, this is how the file should be placed, the folders, how the models should be placed, the naming conventions, I'm actually saying like examples, code snippets, all of that are context relevance for the agents. We should see the agents just like a new hire in the company. So if somebody is hired, there is usually the onboarding process, So nobody really knows how the company works, so neither does the agent. If we see the agent just like a junior engineer that needs to be taught, on the ways of we work, then the agents will be able to do a much better job. Okay, let's move on. All right. So yeah, let's go. This is the third and fourth thought suggestion, which is being specific. If you remember the prompts that we had initially, was a very bad prompt. No, we just said, hey, upgrade this Java version to version Java 21. So agents are not good for that. We need to be specific, provide the right context, maybe some examples, no, in the prompt, some code snippets, indicates the relevant code for the agents to act. And also something that I suggest is to track the your prompts in a folder. Why is that? So sometimes, and this I have here, yeah, I had there in the slide. Yeah, if we track the prompts in a file, is much easier. For example, if for some reason the agent hallucinates and starts doing, you know, things that you don't expect, you reset the chat, open a new session, and reference to your file again. Yeah, so this is an example of a good prompt. Now let's maybe zoom in into that. So here I'm saying the final goal of the prompt, and also have a section about the context that I think that is important for the agents to know. Remember that I showed you the documentation, and I'm referenced here on my context. Now I'm saying, hey, I need to enhance this API, use the guideline to do this work. I'm also passing some code snippets. So in this case, I had to listen to some event coming from Kafka, and I'm putting some examples here on the prompt as well. And I'm also linking the code, referencing the file that I expect the agent to change. So all of that is important for the agent to do a good job while we work with the agent. I'm also saying the expected results, how the endpoint should respond. So this is also good for the agents to know. So yeah, being specific, important for the agents to do a good job. Fifth suggestion, and 6, has to do with rules. So often we see the agents, for example, it tends to add comments. For every single statement, agents will try to add like a very obvious comment. One rule that we can add is this: hey, do not add comments. As we know, the documentation should be the code, no? So if we add that as a rule, the agent try to not add obvious comments, for example. And then the 6th suggestion has to do with commit often, as I told you. So maybe you have to do some follow-up, but this follow-up agents then takes a different path and change the code that was initially working. So if we have your changes committed, that problem, we should avoid that problem. All right, so after all of this, was I productive? Well, on the first weeks, the first days, I was like this, lost, frustrated. Agent is not working. I was 30 minutes looking at the screen, nothing getting done. But then after applying the tips, we were finally able to leverage AI as a code assistant. And I wanted to go back to this slide, actually. This is very impressive. I think any manager looking at this slide would be very intrigued to know what was the reason of this productivity boost. All right, so let's go into a section where it's more like a philosophical section, which are how can using AI impact us as a human developers? Let's go. So first point has to do with over-reliance. So there will be a point that we'll be relying a lot on the agent, that when you actually need to do the change yourself, kind of have this feeling of loss of skill. So my suggestion on this point is to have clear in your head how to do the task. So you're going to use the agents just as an executor of the code. You know how to do the task. You're using the just to write the code for you. Second point has to do with knowledge gap. Knowledge gaps is, if you provide the right context, agents will be able to do the work. If you provide the documentation, the right context, it will do the work. But if you don't know really what the agent is doing, that could be risky. For example, there is an incident or a bug, and you have to take the decision quickly, and you don't know really what the code is, that can be a problem. Third point, psychological effects. So maybe you are a guy you're a person that really likes coding, for example. But this is changing, agent is writing most of the code. So we need to adapt to this new reality actually, and embrace it. You know, maybe adapt, develop new skills. So that would be my suggestion at this point. Fourth point is about code quality and security. AI is just like human and can also write bad code. This point is important. Yeah, so we need to see that the code that AI writes is ours. Okay? Imagine a production bug, a production incident, and we cannot blame AI, no? I mean, we wrote the code, yeah? So this is important for us to have in mind. And the last point is about cognitive load. What is this? So we'll be delegating tasks to AI, and as I told you, there will be a moment that you'll be just looking at the screen. This is very boring. You'll be end up on this situation. I have here 3 different windows, 3 different agents doing different stuff for me. Some in the same repository, in the different folders. All of that extra cognitive load, plus people talking with me on Slack, context switching. This is the new reality, and we need to adapt on that, I didn't mention about this, but maybe we can talk a bit about model selection at this slide. Here I'm using, as you can see, I'm using Gemini, Copilot using a model, and Cursor using another model. Honestly, if we apply the suggestions that I showed you, at this point, I think, from my experience, Claude, Sonnet 4.5 is the best one. What we usually have at Glovo is one model reviewing the other, the code that the other writes. So this is something that we can leverage as well. Again, those are pitfalls, as I'm calling here, but they can be mitigated. Yeah, so I think the value that AI can give us in software development is much higher than this. So we need to embrace it, and actually use it. Okay, so what else can AI do? Let's go to actually use cases of AI at Glovo besides code assistants. We built this, what we call the feature toggle layer. I mean, we all know what feature toggle is, feature flags, I don't know how you call it. This is, very relevant, and we use it, for example, to deploy safely to production, right? To do canary release on our features, for example. But there will be a moment where you have so much toggles in your code base that the complexity then increases, and that we call technical debts. They are unreachable code that it's there just, bothering you while you're trying to understand your code. So we built this tool as an agent that, given a repository and the name of the toggle, it deletes the dead, the code for you. It updates the task, it creates a PR. Pretty awesome. Or else, what else can we mention? Let's talk about MCP server. This, if you don't know what this is essentially the interface that the LLMs have to communicate with external services. For example, Grafana, which is the service that we use for monitoring observability. They have their MCP server, and we can, for example, integrate that with our agent and ask a question like this. Hey, investigate the most recent 2-point exception in the service, the root cause, and access to me. And the agents can actually do a pretty good job. It's built the Grafana query, and if you worked with Grafana, you know that it's not a very simple task to do. It did it, it went to the code, found the root cause, and presented it here to me. And in the end, it said, my investigation is complete, which is, I wish I had the same level of confidence here. All right, so imagine this application like an agent that it's, keeps looking into Grafana for the logs, for the new errors, and automatically it tries to open PRs and tries to fix them. That would be a pretty cool application. Okay, so let's go into the final section of the presentation, and I wanted to share my view to the to what is coming, the future. Right? So we are going to answer that question that everybody asks, and nobody really needs the confidence to discuss this. Is AI going to take our jobs? Again, so this is my view on this topic. Let's see what I think about this question. All right. Ooh. just to add a bit of more suspension here. It's a suspense. Well, if we look at the other sectors, this is happening, right? For example, in call centers, AI is impacting a lot. And I don't know if you know about this, but for example, in, let's see this other headline here. In Albania, they just appointed the first AI minister. That is surprising, no? And incredible at the same time. So what about us then? Is AI going to take our jobs as software developers? So my view on this is that no, okay? If we become AI ready, which is the topic of this presentation. What does it mean? We use it every day. Yeah? We are familiar with it. So one friend of mine once did this analogy, which is when the calculator was invented, all the accountants had to adapt. No? They had to learn how to use that new tool. The ones that didn't, yeah, the one that decided to stick on doing math on the paper, they had, they had troubles. So I think the same is happening. So AI definitely can help us be more productive. Yes, so we need to use it every day. If we are not doing it now, please start doing it tomorrow. And also we need to keep up to date to what is happening. So this is changing very quickly. No? So every month there is a new model, there is a new tool that we can use and be more productive. So to keep up to date is also important. And the final point that you see there below is to treat AI errors as contact gaps. So at the beginning, I was very frustrated, right? I was not getting the results that I was expecting. If we have patience and treat AI errors as just context gaps, we'll be able to use it in a better way. To close up, some other reflections I see, at least at Glovo as well, that people are a bit afraid actually to embrace this new technology for some reason. The adoption is still very low. I think we need to change that, honestly. So let's double down on using AI every day, to be familiar with this tool, and I think we'll be ready to what is coming. Thank you. Okay, question.
Thank you so much. I think it's super interesting how you kind of structured an experiment around this and all in to get real data out of it. As a manager, I'm obviously interested about the management numbers. So I was wondering a couple of things. So first of all, even if your guidelines are relatively strict, right? Everyone was using the same guideline prompting, the same sort of, everyone had the same sort of training, let's say. Did you see any quality differences in the output of the different developers and eventually the different managers, even when using AI, even when using this leveling tool?
Yes. So, yeah. The thing is that, for example, like doing code reviews, you kind of clearly see that the code was written by AI, for example. So the critical code review that every developer should do before submitting a PR, that was happening sometimes. Yeah. So I think we just improve after feedbacks. No, that hey, maybe the agent started with an MD file. We need to add a more strict rule, for example, for this use case. And if it's generic enough, that to be shared among the other developers. So things like that. Yes, we see differences from different developers. Yes.
And what was the feedback from the managers? Like, are they more interested in contributing as they were doing it in this project? Is this something that you felt that they would embrace?
Yeah, so we see contributions from management, for example, on documentation, or monitoring, for example, like reducing noise on monitors. So on the side of development, yes, we had some contributions from management, and it's much easier for them to understand the code. So they often use the agents to just ask questions how a certain feature works, for example. So usage, from this perspective, we are seeing a lot, mainly from management side. Yes, Felipe.
So, of course, you guys on engineering is doing coding, using AI for coding. But for the operational aspect, they are demanding for you guys from engineering, helping them out to build agents, for example, for marketing, sales, and so on? Or is very strict, like engineering is doing for engineering to deliver their goals, or people from outside engineering is starting to go, and how you guys handle this new?
Yes, it's a good question. Actually, the organization is big enough that for me, I don't have really visibility on what is happening, on other fronts, on other sectors. For example, I know that we use AI a lot on contact support, for example. Yeah, so on the data pipelines, for example, to tag products, to set taxonomy on products. So all of those data pipelines is happening, and I don't have much visibility on those topics. So those kind of requests don't get to us, on the engineering side. This happens on the other side of implementation, for sure.
Probably Global did a good job in in doing this.
Right. Okay.
Hi.
Hello.
Hello. Well, as you show, there are different clients in order to use this. Then I have been using Cloud Code, and it's really good. But there is one thing that you said, that it's really good when you have the code developed by one LLM, and then you ask another LLM to check it. Do you use Cursor in some way to do it, or how do you do it in a kind of automatic way?
So at Glovo, we have Gemini integrated in GitHub. So when you submit a PR, Gemini will try to review it. And usually the code assistant that we use while coding is Cursor, mostly using Sonnet 4.5 as a model. So yeah, that's the way that works mostly. So I should go to the questions online, no? So the first question is about PII and sensitive information on tracing. That's for the other one, no? Good. Could you please share your way of building engineering teams? Did you teach AI existing teams or recruited from outside? I'm not sure if I got the question. So can you please share the way of building engineering teams? Did you teach AI existing team? Yeah, so I understood now. Okay, so you asked if we hired like AI experts, no? No. So the team existed, and we just kind of had this mentality, this experiment. Hey, this month we are going to embrace AI and use it every day. Yes, this is what happened. I'm not a developer or work in tech. Thanks for including power skills in the presentation. Thank you. Can you please tell me advice on how to mitigate knowledge gaps? Okay, so good question. So this was on the pitfalls, that we mentioned. Well, using AI, maybe it will output some code that you don't really understand. Okay, so maybe some annotation. Let's say that you are using Spring. This is a very sorry. But there is some annotation that you don't really understand, but the code is working. So instead of just accepting that, my suggestion is to investigate, try to understand what is that, maybe look at the official documentation, even ask AI to explain that to you, so that you have knowledge to what AI outputs. So why are graphical designers concerned that AI will take their jobs, while developers seems more optimistic? Both can become more efficient and earn more money. Okay, Alexander, thank you for your opinion. The next will be designers, no? So we can ask them. No, sorry. Yeah, I don't really know. I mean, next present, we invite some designers next time and we ask them. But thanks for your question.
Yeah. Thanks for your presentation. I have a question about how do you handle issues within huge code bases where your context window may not take it.
Yes, yes. Yeah. Is the third suggestion that we presented, no, is being specific. Maybe on the prompts you actually point the code that you want to, for the AI to write. It's important for you as a developer to know what you are doing as well, no? So the idea of vibe code, it doesn't really work. So you need to know what you are doing. Like before doing the test, you know the files that you need to change, and you're using AI just to execute. So I think if we go that way, we will be able to get a good results from the agents. And
is your code, let's say, decomposed and isolated enough to work with that, let's say, separately outside of the whole context?
Yeah. So this is something that we've tried to follow now, of course. I mean, to have the code modularized and all of that best practices. And it's just a matter of pushing for that to happen. Then, yes, we're going to be able to have good results.
Got it. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. That's it, no? Thank you.
Okay, let's have a 5-minute break. And then please come back after 5 minutes because we're going to have the final presentation by Carlos. Okay, see you soon. Minutes are up, so if you can sit so we can continue. After this, we're gonna have the networking session with food and drinks, so yeah. Okay, final presentation from Carlos. He's gonna teach us and talk to us about how we can make AI systems more reliable and that we can actually trust. Carlos Chanson is a product engineer at Latitude, and he works on tools that help teams build, refine, and evaluate AI agents with real data. He also explores the human side of agentic systems and how we can collaborate alongside with these intelligent models. And today he's gonna talk to how we can sometimes have those AI systems that are not as reliable or they don't give us the expected thing that we need, but at the end, how we can make them more reliable through role design and system architecture. Thank you.
Thank you, Ines, for the introduction. Okay, so I'm a product engineer at Latitude. And let me first start introducing what Latitude is. We're building an open source platform for building, evaluating, improving, and deploying any AI features with confidence. In our platform, we have worked with many companies trying to automate most of their processes, and we're building every feature to accommodate all pain points we're finding in the process of making any AI feature. We have features to build the prompt easily, both for technical and not technical people. You can create AI, just simple prompts, or give them tools, create agents and orchestrate them. You have full observability and full control of your prompts, and then you can evaluate them and even run experiments to see how they work. So, as I said, we work with, I personally work with several companies trying to automate many of the processes. And many of the companies always fall to the same pain point. So let me give you an example, a real case example of a company who wanted to automate one of the main processes. This was a VC which received dozens or even hundreds of startup pitches every single day. So not every single pitch, actually most of these pitches were not interesting for them. They just had to be discarded. But they had to go through every single pitch, investigate the company, investigate the product, just to decide whether this company is worth reviewing or not. So this is one process that it seems like it could be automated with today's technology. So I built an AI system, an agent, to automate this. So let's start by just building the agent. An agent is just a prompt you give to a set of instructions you give to an LLM to generate a response. You give them a set of tools which they can use to interact with the world, and then they autonomously use the tools and finally return a final response. So first, we need to identify what tools is going to use our agent. So it will have to do a deep research about the company and the product and the market fit. So we need to give them tools to access to the internet, to read web pages, to read maybe LinkedIn profiles, product hunt launches. And then finally, in this case, they will save a report to Notion. So we need to give them tools to store data in Notion. In addition to this, we want to execute this agent automatically based on external actions. In this case, every time a new email is received containing a startup pitch, this agent will be executed. So now we can piece these pieces together. We create an AI prompt. We give them a set of instructions on what it has to do, what tools it has available, what guidelines it has to follow in order to both do the research and create a decision over whether the company should, the VC should investigate it further or not. Then we connect it to the event, we connect the tools, and this is the agent. But this is not enough. We need to add a new layer of observability to know what is happening. You cannot just create an agent, deploy it to production, and let it work without you knowing exactly what is going on. It's working or not. So we need to have full observability, and then you can build even evaluations on top of that. You can build maybe other people in your team can review the responses and score them. Or maybe you can do this automatically with another LLM. This is what we call evaluations. So let's see how this agent works. Well, after executing this agent with a few examples from the email, we can see that it's not taking a lot of time to respond, which might sound like a good thing, but knowing this is a really complex task, we know the study it has to do for this company is really deep, it's not a good sign. Then we can see that the context size, the history of actions it has to keep track on to keep working, it's really big, which is increasing the cost of the execution. Then, as I said, maybe we added a few evaluations. One of the evaluations I added was the research depth. I wanted the agent to really investigate each one of the topics before generating the report. These topics were about the team of the company. What were they doing? What's their history? About the product, what competition is there? About the technology, the product market fit. Then I added an evaluation for fact checking to whether the AI was just taking stuff for granted, or was it actually trying to see if the claims they gave in the pitch were real or not, or if the information it found in the internet is actually it's actually real. And then we added a human in the loop evaluation, where a team could go through the generated report and decide whether the whole information is what they expected to be, or if it was missing some data. So with this agent, we can see it's not doing great. It's actually doing pretty bad. The research it does, I mean, it does research, but it's really surface level. It does not do any fact checking at all. We tell them to in the system prompt, and then although it generates a report, most of the topics are missing. So, I mean, what is happening? Most companies, more teams get to this point and just blame it to the model. Maybe the model is too small and it cannot work that much. So they try with a bigger model, which might work a bit better, but they end up with the same issue. So this is not a problem about the model. If we actually investigate what's going on, thanks to this observability and these evaluations, we can actually see that this single AI, this single agent, has too many responsibilities. It has to understand the pitch it received. It has to investigate and research a lot of data with a lot of different topics. It then has to create a report and create a suggestion for the team to whether keep investigating or not based on a few guidelines. And then it has to save this report to Notion. These are many different responsibilities for a single agent. Then we also have context load. This is the history of actions it has done, which it has to keep track on to perform future tasks, which make the model slower and more expensive. And then it is really hard to iterate. I mean, since all of it, it's a single prompt. Maybe you want to improve how it generates a report, and by doing so, you need to change the system prompt, which will also affect how it performs in other parts of the process. So how can we improve this? Well, as I said, this is too many responsibilities for a single agent. So why don't we just create many different agents with simple responsibilities? Well, then we first need to identify what tasks is this agent doing. First, it has to perform the research. It has to generate an evaluation based on a provided set of guidelines. Then it has to generate a full report and save it to Notion. So we can create just a single agent that will do every single one of these tasks and put them together. We'll then have to introduce another agent, which we call the orchestrator, which just manages the rest of sub-agents. It just decides when and how each agent has to run. Then you can piece it up all together, and you have this agentic system of a few different agents working together. So, well, we configured some evaluations before to see how it was performing. So we can now run this same system with the same set of inputs we tried before, and we can see whether it improved or not. So after running it, we can see that it is taking more time to run. I mean, this makes sense. It's a more complex workflow. There's management and orchestration of different agents. But it's fine in this case because it's a background job, so we don't care about time really. Then we can see that the context size is reduced. So now we have individual agents working on their own tasks. We don't have to share everything they're doing with every single agent. So reducing the context size reduces the cost, which is good. And then we can see the evaluations. Just looking at the report, you can see that it improved. I mean, the team of people who were reviewing it really could see that it kind of improved, but there was still missing data. Then the fact-checking was still not really happening. But then how can we actually improve this further? Why is this still happening if we divide it into different tasks? Well, we'll see that splitting into single responsibilities actually worked in improving it. We have more context hygiene, and we have improved the testability and the iterations. Since now we have different agents, maybe I want to change how the evaluation is produced, and I can just change the prompt for the evaluator agent, and this will not affect whatsoever to any other of the agents. But then we still have some agents that still have too many responsibilities. So we can just break it down more, split it into more agents. We can see, for example, the research agent has to research lots of data from widely different topics. So maybe we can split it more into different researchers. We could have this orchestrate the other agents and just have an agent expert in maybe marketing, and another maybe in product, and another in I don't know, market fit, whatever. The thing is that we will now have maybe too many agents, which will make it even harder to iterate and to see what is going on. But if you look at these other agents, everyone still does the same. Every single agent is still making research on the internet. They are still the same role. So why not, instead of creating different agents, we just create a single research agent, but we call him individually to do research of a single topic. Then when it finishes, we can ask it again to research another topic. This way we scope these researches, making it be able to go further into detail to each different one. So if we plug it all together, it might look something like this. We still have just a few agents, and the orchestrator will just call the researcher over and over again until all the data is researched, and then generate the report and evaluate it. Testing this already works. It already improves substantially the results, but we can improve it even further. We can notice that these agents do not communicate with each other. Instead, it's the orchestrator who takes the research findings from the researcher and sends it to the report generator. And then it takes the report and sends it to the Notion store. So this orchestrator is not only managing which and when the agents are executed, but it's also acting as a messenger, which again, this is two different responsibilities. So why not instead, we could just make the orchestrator call the researcher, and the researcher itself, when it finishes, it just sends the information straight to the report generator. It generates the section of the report, it sends it to the Notion expert, and it stores it to Notion. So now we don't have this messenger responsibility to the orchestrator. Then after the report is finished, the orchestrator can just call the evaluator, it generates an evaluation based on the guidelines, and stores it again. So, in this case, again, the time has, now it's taking longer. It depends on the use case. In this case, since this is an automated job, they don't care about if it takes 20 minutes to execute. So this is not a concern, but the cost has improved. It's a bit cheaper. This is because since now agent has less things to do, there's less content to send to the LLMs over and over again. So this just reduces the cost. Then looking at evaluations and even at the report itself, it has greatly improved. Now, since we have an agent that its only task is to research this specific topic, it can do it in way more detail, just like a regular person would. So, well, we can see that scoping the requirements has improved the performance of the system, and that having simpler objectives makes the system not only easier for the LLMs and for the agents, but also for us to see how it works and see if anything fails, where is it failing and why. So, we have started with a kind of a hard problem, a complex problem, tried to create an agent to solve it, and then we noticed that it was more complex than we thought. And then just by designing specific roles, finding what specific tasks the agent has to do, and creating a system that embraces it and works better with it, just improve the overall system. So this can be applied to almost any complex automation. Maybe just a single LM cannot do it overall, but we can actually design a system to improve it, even if the models are not big enough. So we have designed this system based on three principles. First, we have to define clear roles, clear tasks to any of the agents. A rule of hand is if you cannot, creating a role of an agent should be able to be described with a simple sentence. If you find it hard to describe what the agent has to do, the agent will find it hard to understand what it has to do. Each agent should also have a single responsibility, a single task to do. This makes it easier to test and to iterate and to find what's going on and what's failing. And finally, even though models are getting larger and they can still work on harder problems, the structure and the design of the system still matters. We have been able to identify these pain points and know how to keep iterating and improving the system thanks to observability, which we need to have to see what's going on, to automatic or manual evaluations to get specific metrics of all the topics we care about on our system, and then to be able to orchestrate them. This is all we do at Latitude. We have a platform built just for that, where many parts of the team can work together to create and improve these systems. This was everything. Now, if you have any questions? Yes.
Thank you. Thank you for the presentation. I think it describes a pattern that's very familiar to a lot of us working with agent systems. My question would be, like a challenge question, why stop there, right? It's turtles all the way down, so why don't you take a step up and start thinking about meta agents that actually design the system, try to come up with those roles, eventually implementing them as well? Is this something that
you
have considered?
In our platform, in Latitude, we have built an agent which knows about about AI engineering, which has context and information about all the everything that works and doesn't work, and you just give it a problem and it generates the best design it can create for you. Like it identifies, like it does everything we did. It identifies the tasks, splits it into different problems, generates specific agents, and coordinates it. This is something we have done in Latitude ourselves, so we can even test and iterate this agent that creates agents. But yeah, like that's what agents are for, actually.
So thank you for the presentation. And Carlos, from this business case that you presented about the venture capital, I think that when you fine-tune everything and deliver some startups that the guys are looking, I think it's great. But how do you measure the startups that was not considered, that might be was discarded and nobody can see? Because I think for the whole process, people don't get a lot of time looking at hundreds and hundreds. But in the middle of these hundreds, like 5% of them could be like the silver bullet that these guys was looking for, but was discarded. How do you, if it's possible, to measure this quality about the ones that maybe was not in the final process, was like elected to be the ones to be looked at?
I mean, generally, if you have a process that you think could be automated, it mostly is. Maybe teams try to make it with just a single prompt and ChatGPT, and they fail. But that's not because of the state of AI. It's because you need to create a better design for it. So generally, any company or any product that could automate processes, it actually could. It depends on the use case, of course, and what your restrictions are. In terms of what users or companies are failing to do so, I don't have that information. I don't have the information right now. Okay, that's the question.
Yeah, and what's matter a little bit about how to check the quality that is being delivered, because of course your client, he'll say, okay, you delivered me like 5 startups that are incredible, and I didn't need to have a lot of teams looking at other 100. But how to check if these 5 could be like 7 or 8 or 9, and maybe 4 of them that usually VCs takes 1 to return all the investment, right?
Yeah.
So how to spot this, like the quality? So we shot like we delivered 5, was supposed to be 9, so like 60% of these, or no, or even is it possible to measure, because you say, we discarded 300 and they was not worth, but maybe 10 was, I don't know.
Yeah, no, this is a great question. Actually, usually the process, it's divided in two parts. First, when you're building the prompt, you don't want to deploy it until you're confident it works. So how can you know it works before actually deploying and trying it in the real world? So in our case, we have you can do different versions of your project, and with each version you can run what we call experiments, where you can, in this case, since they have dozens and hundreds of different emails, we can just send them to the AI, see how they work, generate lots of the results, maybe hundreds, maybe 500, for example, and see how these evaluations work. This was actually the case with the results. This was not in real time. We were testing them beforehand. So then after you're confident, the AI works as you expected, maybe with the number you feel confident. You can still evaluate it in real time after it's deployed. So you can find if any problem has arisen for, because, I don't know, a new, some data you didn't expect now appeared and it's breaking some parts. You can actually, you have full observability of what's going on in real time.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. So do you use guardrails? How do you handle in the agents if some external services doesn't work? So you can use guardrails since you can define a system of agents. You can have a single agent be able to, if you are dealing with user input, to see the input and detect whether there is some kind of attack or some kind of content you are not, that goes against your policies, and just refuse to answer. This is all designed in the system. And then how do you handle the agents if some external service doesn't work? Actually, one of the best things of creating AI systems that work with each other, instead of some more deterministic approaches like N8N, for example, where you create the logic workflow, which is always deterministic, is that AI agents can improvise and can, if you find any roadblock in the path, you can see how the agent will try to improvise and work things in different ways. Actually, in our experiment systems, you can try the agent with real data, but you can also use simulations, simulated environments, where you can try these kind of test cases, of edge cases, to see what the agent will do with if maybe the service fails, or if maybe the information it's looking for is not available, and stuff like that. So you can really make sure everything is working as you would expect in any case that could appear in the real world. Then, metrics do you track in observation, and what type of data human sees at the end like table? Single text report or graph? Okay. So in our platform, we collect the complete trace of communication we have with the LLM providers. The observability is full transparent, so you can see everything that's happening, and you can build evaluations on top of that. That could be maybe more deterministic, just a programmatic rule to check for if the text contains some content, or if it of checking for the size, for example. Then you can have human in the loop evaluations. No, LLM as judge evaluations, which are just other LLMs taking a look at what the agent did and just evaluating based on a metric you give them. Or you can have a team do it themselves. And then when the human, what the human sees in the table, that depends on the prompt. In this case, there was no graph. It was just a single report with very specific sections and a schema of what information it was looking for specifically. But this depends on the use case. If you needed to generate or find graphs, you can do so and maybe load the image into Notion or generate Notion graphs. Since it can use the, in this case, the Notion API, it can generate any graph in Notion. But again, this is just for this specific use case. We actually handle, we support almost any kind of use case you could have for automating processes and use. We do support like 3,000 plus tools available by default, but then you can also connect it with MCPs. So it just depends on the use case. Then I think it could be useful for building entire systems and our artifacts, like full books, right? I mean, yeah, this is something generative AI can actually do. The quality of the results will depend on how you write the prompts and what do you want to the AI to generate, I guess. And then you should consider writing a white paper on your approach and share the full examples and use cases. Yeah, in this case, this example I cannot show real data because this was a project for a company. But there are lots of papers about how to design and how to approach any of these processes. We're just following other people's studies and our own experiences to build this. So there are plenty of papers available. Thank you.
Okay, that's done. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you also the audience seeing online. Thank you so much for assisting to this OLX Masterclass. Occasionally we host these kind of things, so please make sure to come the next one. I hope you have enjoyed it a lot. Now, let's go to the networking part. If you go to the elevator on the 6th floor, you will find some food and drinks there. But please be advised, only 5 people per elevator. If not, you might be stuck inside and not enjoy the networking parts. Thank you so much.